I'm the guy that's the organizer, the one that's put this together for the last 3.5 years, and I think you're going to be in for a really good treat. I really not think I know, because I know Scott. We've known each other for 19 years. So back in '02, Susie Mallory had the Phoenix Real Estate Club, which Al Nyson bought. So at that time, they were looking to have some mentoring. So myself and 2 other possible mentors made our pitch to, I don't know, 50, 60 investors. So out of those 50 or 60 investors, 45 signed up, and 40 of them signed up with me, one of which was Scott. But out of that whole group, he was the only one that ever did anything. And you've been around for a while, we'll get into that, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a long time, but it was a good time.
This maybe not to say how old we are a little bit. We started very young.
Yeah. So as we're going to be talking about note investing, we'll be talking about land. The whole key is, and you've seen this being a title now, right? Aren't you in title? That they're all totally safe, right? Everything you get into is totally safe. Not. So it's the same thing with this. Don't believe a word that Scott says or that I say. Double check it with whatever it might be. In terms of a disclaimer to that point, check with your advisors. Make sure that what we are suggesting, in fact, will work for you. There was one of the attendees a couple weeks ago was asking about a Wyoming corporation, which I use. And he said, so should I just take what you talk about for book? Should I go to an attorney? I said, you can do what you want. I've been through the attorney stuff on this, but again, whatever works for your box. So I'm just using that as an example for what you might want to consider. In terms of who I am, where I've been, so you were talking about ancient. So I revised the slide a little bit. So I started way back then, and I was a slumlord. I bought junker houses in Cincinnati and credit cards, which you shouldn't be doing, but it's not uncommon for newbies. Bought them, sold them, then I eventually moved to Portland, Maine, got into brokerage. That was the first touch, knocking on doors and cold calling, all that junk. From that, my daughter's mother at the time found a house, a New England Cape with a barn and 23 acres. We optioned it, got the house, FHA, 2% down, closed 7 months later, didn't have a dime in my pocket. No experience, I never qualified. But the seller took back paper on the other land, which was roughly 18 acres. And that I developed into a subdivision and some housing on that. Then as the market transitioned and family life changed, I moved to Phoenix, got into wholesaling and flipping, subject twos. Did a lot of, back in the, starting in 2004, 2005, I bought a lot of 5-acre parcels in Tonopah and Buckeye, split them, hired the builder, did the wells, the septic, cross maintenance agreements, put up about 50 houses and then resold them. So the unique thing about that was what happened in '09. Exactly. So Barry, it was the last house, one of the last houses I built. It was in Buckeye Ranchos, which is off of Yuma. My build cost was $168. The lot was $30. We sold the house for $333. That home sold REO 3 years later for $120. And then about every single home that I sold there eventually went REO because the people walked. But then what came out of that was I got into brokering again as a high volume REO agent. And now, so going back to 13, I've been working in the note space. And that's been a unique situation in that I'd rather work with the paper than work with the hard asset. Now the paper does go into a hard asset and can cause heartburn, but beyond that, it's where it's at. So currently, and this is, I'm going to pick up now where I was last month. There's a couple of hedge funds out there that have to divest themselves of their paper, and they own 7,000 notes. So they're letting them go in tranches of 90, 95, 100 at really good pricing. So if you're interested in learning the business, and I was talking to Joseph about that, it's a way that you can, let's say, get involved individually and then get the mentoring on the side because you'll learn exactly what I'm doing. So it's like a in-step type training program, and you get paid for it. So I'm working, I call it loan participation agreement. I always have this mindset reset. I think this was really cool. And Scott, you can relate to this. An achiever's high doesn't come from just thinking about success to manifest the high, but rather it comes from engaging, following a plan, and reaching the ultimate goal. That's a true high. Pat, how's that relate to your brokering in Virginia? Perfect. Or Guillermo, you've had that same with what you've done, right? But I just thought that was so true. I got this from Keith Mady yesterday. Do you ever get Keith's emails from Old Republic Title? So this is from the Crawford Report. This is the Phoenix marketplace now. So we're in a niche market. I'm not in this market. It's just crazy right now. If anybody want to comment on that in terms of where the market is, what you've seen? Go ahead, talk about it.
I mean, who does wholesales here? Let me rephrase that. Who tries to do wholesaling? How tight is that market right now?
So you can sell at a wholesale right now?
I don't even do that. I'm going to talk to you about a completely different venue.
Yeah, but to that point, the market's strong for now. I keep saying it's reminiscent of 05, 6, 7, but when is 8 going to come again? It should be coming. But I just thought it was just interesting. If you look at these numbers here, it's just crazy. And then that's really hard to see. The month supply is down, month sales are up. It's off the chart. I don't get it. So as a note investor, where do you start? How many folks in here have not ever bought a note? How many of you would be interested in buying notes if you knew what to do? Okay, so there's some questions you might want to ask yourself. Are you going to be active or passive? Active is somebody that's buying them at wholesale, doing the workout, and selling them to a retail buyer, an IRA buyer. Somebody just wants to just buy it for their grandson, just let it sit in their Coverdell IRA, whatever it might be. You're not really going to work it. That's passive. Active is somebody that's working it out. So, Mark, you've worked non-performing notes, right? And you consider yourself an active investor. So when you're working as an active investor and you're doing a workout on a non-performing note, how much time and knowledge does that take?
Right. Well, I do have to say that I give them 30 days, 15 to 30 days, or to make a decision on whether or not they want to do a loan mod.
Right.
And if they don't, then I go directly to foreclosure.
Okay, but that's a lot of work.
Right, sure.
And it takes some intestinal fortitude
Yes.
in terms of what you want to be exposed to or not. Guillermo, you're laughing.
Yeah, that's because I stay out of that.
I'm sorry?
I stay out of that
Right,
scenario.
right. And that's not for me either. It's just more than I choose to get into. You can do, when we talk about performing or non-performing, it's really about risk and reward. But in Mark's venue on non-performing, your return's a lot higher. But your risk is higher. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay. In the performing, your reward is less, but your risk is less. And if you're flipping those notes, your reward is smaller, but it's a quicker term. There might be some massaging of the insurances and just different things, or getting in touch with the payer. Or Lori bought a note recently. We transitioned it from a contract for deed or land contract into a deed of trust and a note. So, but that creates value. You're selling a better product that way. So it's a question of where you want to go on that. Money now, which would be the performing, or money later. Non-performing, you get paid there. Or buying a note and learn by playing with it. That's what I'm talking about in terms of mentoring while being invested. And then you can also go to National Guru Training, who's sort of Eddie Speed, or there's let's see who else, Martin Sains, there's others out there. You can go that way, or Diversified Investments, Tracy Rui, she's got some training. You can go that way. But this training, this could be upwards of $40,000 to get involved with that. That's a lot of money. So I've gone through the Eddie Speed thing. I've got my 30+ thousand into it. I don't regret it. It was a great, and is a great program. It's a question of what you want to do though. And then the last one is partnering with an experienced road pro and learn. And that's what I'm suggesting. So I'm just going to leave that live for now. If you want to talk about that later, we can do that. So in terms of education, I showed this slide the last time. There's several note events that are out there. Of course, we're at one right now. Noteworthy, I'm not sure what's happening with that, but it's supposed to be in Scottsdale, September 20th. Note Expo's coming up November 1st in Dallas. That's a great event. There'll be 600 plus people there. And then the Paper Source event is in Vegas in mid-April. How many have been to Paper Source before? Pat, what did you see about that?
Oh, I love Paper Source. What impressed me the most about Paper Source was not only the level of speakers, but the diversity in venues of investing. So not only just notes, but just all sorts of things. It's the first time I ever heard of factors. You guys probably have heard of factors. I had never heard of it, and still not. I wouldn't say I know about it, but now I know it exists. And
Right.
if I wanted to find out about it, I know where to go to find it.
Right. Howard, we met at a note school event, Eddie Speed event.
Yeah.
And then we've seen each other at a bunch of other events. We've spoken at similar events.
Yeah.
What's your comment on Paper Source or any of these up here? In terms from
well-
a new note person's perspective or an existing, what would be your thoughts on that briefly?
If you're, I've never been to a Note Expo. I've spoken at Noteworthy, but everyone who is serious in the note business have been to Paper Source. You are going to the speakers are they are old time. They have the same kind of background you see Davis putting out. This is not a person who took a course and then decided I can do this. They have more scars and more rust on them, and they can tell you all the stuff. And they have succeeded. They've succeeded in real estate, and they've succeeded here. And they're open. They talk to you.
They share.
They share. So if you're going to be in this business, at least go once.
You gotta
That's
get some
all
education.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just let me make one comment. I trade stocks. I always said I have never lost money trading stocks, but I have learned some very expensive lessons.
So this is the good part. This is why we're here right now. So Scott, talk about this stuff here.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Dave. Well, I've been a real estate investor for 1989. Bought my first investment property. But how I got into the real estate industry is I graduated from university, moved to San Francisco, and I always wanted to become a real estate investor, but just didn't know how to start. So I figured, what better way to do that than to go work for somebody that was doing that and have them train me and get paid for that. So I did that in San Francisco, ended up with a multifamily portfolio there, worked in the multifamily industry off and on since then. And as we were talking earlier today, I kind of got a little tired of it. So that's a lot of my background is working in the multifamily industry, and not only just multifamily assets, but portfolios. 3 years ago, I was managing 1,700 apartments, and I had a staff of 52. Not a fun job. I've also worked in commercial, where I've worked in industrial, I've worked in retail, and I've worked in the medical side of commercial. And then I've also owned single-family home portfolios, but all along, I've been investing in land and just acquiring land. And I'm sure, who got stung in 2006, 7, 8? Not one hand? Are you? Okay. How about we be honest here? Who got stung in 2008 and 9? I got hit big time.
Who got buried?
Yeah, that was me. And I knew it was coming. I'm sure a lot of us did as well. And so what I went out to do from that point forward is I went out to learn a simpler process. But in the meantime, I've been an instructor for ASREA, Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. I'm also an instructor for the Arizona Department of Real Estate. And right now what I'm teaching is I'm teaching real estate agents how to work land. One of our biggest customers is I work with the largest home builders in Arizona, and go to their sites and teach them how to differentiate their products from all the other master plan communities that they are competing against.
And so, again, it's a very in-depth subject. I'm going to keep it simple today. I'm going to show you some really easy processes that I do that will show that land is, quite frankly, an easier product to work with. I've worked in default services, so we talked about short sales. I did with some other people earlier today. Well, I used to work for Conseco, and that's actually what I was doing when Dave started mentoring me. Is I was working at Conseco, and so they were the third largest diversified lender in the United States at that time. And so I had the resources to work that market, but more importantly, I had the education behind the scenes. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is owner financing and converting that into notes, which is why Dave asked me to come and talk here. Again, I've been in property management, and as I said before, I've been a real estate instructor for years.
So this is what we talked. I had this slide up last month. So this is a picture off of South Mountain, off of 19th Avenue. I was on this hike, but I thought that it was just so appropriate. I could see above the clouds, but I also knew it was below the clouds. So Scott and I, and a lot of folks in here, we know what's up here. We also know what's down here, but you've got to do your due diligence and do your homework to make sure things come out right. So you can look, you know what's there, but you just got to put it together.
Right.
And you make mistakes along the way. It's okay.
Right.
But this is what differentiates Scott and I and a bunch of others from a total newbie who's just learning the ropes.
Yeah. No, and Howard made a great point. He's never lost money in stocks. Well, I've never lost money in real estate. I had some major educational issues. Yeah, I mean, what's the old Midas commercial? You can pay me now or pay me later. I decided to pay them later because, again, it was just a learning process we all have to go through. So I guess one of the biggest points I want to make is don't be afraid to make a learning experience. And I think it was Wayne Gretzky that said you miss 100% of the shots you never take. Right? And how successful was he? All right, so let's move on. Best questions get the best answers. Dave?
Ask questions.
Yeah.
You've got a guy up here that knows his stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know everything, but here's one key that I feel has kind of got me to where I'm at now. It's not ever a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to talk to you about a team that I put together, and I don't want to be an expert at everything. I'm bad at accounting. I can read accounting, but do I want to do it? No, that's not what I'm best at. So that's why I have people on my team that are way better at what I do than I am. And so that's a key component, is surround yourself with successful people in different aspects of the industry. All right. So again, this is all my contact information. There's going to be another slide at the end that I'll put up here. But if you have any questions, just maybe some, I know Dave and I would love to work with you on some deals if you want. But again, this is going to get directly to me. It's not going to go through a receptionist. It's not going to go through one of the people that work with me. This is going to come right to me. All right, so let's talk about buying and selling land on cruise control. Like I said before, I'm all about keeping things simple. I have gone through and again, I've done multiple land deals, and I've done some that are really tough. And what I've been able to do is kind of filter through what worked and what didn't. And what I'm going to share with you is what I believe works best. And some of the deals I'm going to talk about are smaller deals, but they end up being really, really good deals. And especially when we're talking about notes, I'm not going to allow you to have a lot of exposure. And that's a key to what I'm going to talk about. I know that some of you are probably going, land, God, I don't know a lot about it, or I've done it. It's just not my thing. But for me, it's all about the real estate transaction. It's the same thing. Like I said, I've done commercial, I've done multifamily, I've done single family homes, I've done land. It's all a real estate transaction. And a lot of the same theories and applications are going to apply to land that apply to the other venues. So I only have an hour with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go very quickly. I recommend that you take some great notes. There are going to be a couple points in the presentation where I'm going to stop and accentuate to you, you know what, here's a key thing. If you're not writing anything down up to this point, write this down. And I'm hopefully going to give you some insight that not only help your note business and your land business, but whatever real estate business you're in, it's about how to research stuff, how to find stuff, how to anticipate where it's going. And then I know that I'm not going to be able to answer all your questions within the hour. As I said, I'm going to put up my contact information at the very end, and I'm also going to give you an opportunity to work further with me and to work further with Dave at the very end. So is that okay? Everybody think that's fair?
So this is not designed, it is a pitch, but it's not a pitch.
Yeah.
It's educational.
Right.
But you've got to have tools in your tool belt. When the market shifts, and it will, land is not real liquid.
Right.
But if you're into it and you get into it right, with the right numbers, and it's structured properly,
Right.
there's going to be other people falling out, and this knowledge will
Yeah.
work out well.
Well, and again, what I'm going to teach you today, I'm going to show you deals where I've got nothing in it. Multiple deals where I've got nothing in it. I may have had a small investment up front, but I recoup it immediately. I've got one deal I'm going to share with you today. I've got zero in it but time. Anybody got time to do a real estate deal and that's it? And these are all under contract or sold. So I'm not just saying, well, it could or it might. This is stuff that's I've actually done. All right, why should you buy and sell land? First of all, there's very little competition. A lot of what myself and our team does is we do direct mailings. And I'm going to share with you what we're looking for when we do those direct mailings. But who does direct mailings right now? Okay. Courtney, how many letters do you send out to get a phone call?
To get one phone call, about 800.
About 800, you're getting one phone call. And then what does it take to get a deal? And you're doing single family homes, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Complexes.
Okay.
Right now, we have to talk to about 20 people.
Wow. Okay.
Get an appointment.
Right.
Or two, and then out of that, usually we'll get, out of every 5 appointments, we'll get a deal.
Okay, so anybody want to do the math on that for me? Because those are some big numbers. Again, she's doing an 800-piece mailing to get a phone call.
It works out to be about $4,500 a month in mailing.
Okay.
To get a deal.
$4,500 a month. And what I'm going to share with you is not atypical, but it's the results I'm getting. I did a recent mailing. I did 87 mailings. I got 20 phone calls. And I was cherry picking my deals. Now, again, this is going to be in southeast Arizona. I did another mailing out west, and I didn't get those results. It's a little bit more challenging. But some of the deals I'm going to share with you were down in Cochise County. I'm going to share with you where I'm doing this. And there's some great stuff going on down there. And the land is relatively inexpensive. And so that's what I love about it. First, there's very little competition with people that want to buy land because it's not a traditional transaction. And it's very little competition with anybody competing against me to buy the land. Here's my key thing. I mentioned to some of us earlier that I worked in the multifamily industry managed 1,700 apartments. It was 12 buildings. I was constantly getting phone calls, and why doesn't anybody ever have a maintenance issue between Monday and Friday and 9 and 5? Right. Why is it always, my worst phone calls would come in at 9 o'clock on Sunday nights. Like, well, what do you want me to do? And again, I just got tired of it. I had done that for over 20 years. I started out at the very bottom, worked my way to become building manager and then portfolio managers. I love this. What can you do to property? You don't have drippy faucets. You don't have, if you have termites, oh well, who cares? And so that's what I love about this, is it's all about the simplicity of this. And I'm at a point in my life, anybody in their point in their life right now where they want to make things a little simpler? Yeah, I've seen a lot of hands going up. It's easy terms on the buy and the sell side. Is right now, if you're getting a wholesale deal in single family homes, you have to get financing. Do you maybe have to do hard money? Do you have to do soft money? Do you maybe have to go and get a conventional mortgage? What's going on in the industry right now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for playing along. Rob's my patsy. And that's a great thing about what I do, is that there isn't a lot of financing, and people know that. So if somebody's selling land, they're going to do it on terms. And it's a great thing is that a lot of the deals that I do are what we just put together. We negotiate this. It's not where you have to go out and you have to get a mortgage. You don't have to do these standardized transactions that you have to do in single family homes, commercial. So for me, it's so much easier. Again, there's no more rehab. There's no more messy residents. Land doesn't have an attitude. You know, the only time that I talk to the people that I do the financing on is if they're behind. But here's the beautiful thing about it. Some of the deals I'm going to share with you is I have monthly income coming in every single month. And I've already made all my money back. But here's the great thing. They're also paying late every single month. Now, from a note standpoint, that's probably not the best thing. But for me, that's just pure residual income. It's pure profit. I didn't anticipate this when I budgeted these deals, and it's pure profit to me. As long as I can keep it under 30 days. With land, you can easily subdivide it and then sell into smaller parcels. I'm going to talk with you later about a 40-acre parcel that I've got under contract, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The way the roads are, we've got roads on two sides, so we're going to subdivide it into 120 and 210s, because that's the way the property's structured. Well, this much I can tell you. It's kind of like single-family homes. To build and buy a single-family home that's 1,700 square feet, your square foot price is going to be way more than a 3,000 square foot home. And it's the same thing with land, is that if I can sell a 10-acre parcel way more than I can per acre than I can for a 40-acre parcel. And it's so easy to subdivide. I'm going to talk to you about having surveyors on your team. And it's a simple, simple transaction. I have little or no money down, and that, like I said before, is I don't like to tie up all my money in one deal because I want to be liquid. So when that other deal that comes up, you thought maybe this one was so good, well, what happens to the next one's even better? And you've tied up all your money with this first deal. So what I'm going to show you today is really a simple process where I don't have a lot of exposure. And any exposure I've eliminated for the most part. You don't have to do anything with the property. Who's our fix and flippers in here? We had hands going up halfway.
In rehab.
Yeah, I think there's a group after this next door for you rehabbers where you can commiserate your property stories. You don't do that with land. You know what? If I want to do landscaping, maybe I'll put a rock on it. There's not a lot to do. It's all about simplicity. Here's what is really, really cool. I told you that I'm doing a lot of investing down in Cochise County. There's a bunch of wineries down there. And so I'm going and buying wine property. It's not raw land, it's in a wine region. So do you think that's going to be more marketable or less marketable? But I'm getting it so cheap. My wife and I went down there, actually it was a year ago in September, we had a 10-acre parcel that we hadn't even seen. And so we went down there and just to see it, and then of course we had to test the other lands that was down there, which happened to have wineries on it. But I'm going to show you a technique that we used on that trip that I learned about how to interact with people when we were down there, and the information, inside information that we got just because we kind of put ourselves out there a little bit. And then what's really, really huge, I know it's up in Canada, everything's recreational marijuana, but medical marijuana is going to be huge in land. The climate doesn't necessarily matter because most of it's indoors, or almost all of it's indoors, but they're going to need the space. You don't think that legalized recreational marijuana is coming to Arizona anytime soon? It is. Yeah. And it's going to be national. It's going to be there. I mean, they've already changed the legislation where it's reclassified as far as the hazardous drug. It's coming, guys. So you can either anticipate it and do something about it, or you can just let it happen. But here's the all-time #1 reason why I do land. I can do my research and buy and sell my property in my bunny slippers. I rarely go out and do what's called kicking the dirt. If I can do everything from my office on buying and selling land. Everything's by satellite photos. I'm going to talk to you about various websites that I go to that will give me all the information I have. If it's larger parcels, I'm going to share with you a parcel I have that's 270 acres. I got it under contract, and then I went and kicked the dirt.
But a lot of what I'm going to share about you today, it's not like you have to go out and do due diligence. I've been on due diligence with multifamily, with commercial, industrial, single-family homes. There's not a whole lot of due diligence on these. I mean, there are some things you need to be concerned of as far as water or anything that maybe previously was in the area, but for the most part, it's relatively simple. All right, let's talk about a rock star team. And this is who I suggest you have on your land team. Is first of all, you've got to have a good title company, right, Mitzi? All right. Here's what you're looking for in a title company. This is probably not new to any of you, but a big thing I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for somebody that will do dual closings and a hold open mortgage. Dual closings are, I'm going to pay my title costs right up front. When I get the property, short-term hold, so I get a discount for paying for my costs up front. It's called a hold open. It's also called, and again, you can also do dual closings. Here's one thing is that as investors, and I'm sure you already probably know this, you get a discount because you're an investor, right, Mitzi? Yeah, it's what, 35, 40% of the title policy? Who's using that? Fantastic. Yeah, what? It's, again, it's free money. Take advantage of it. You need to have a good real estate broker on your team. And that's somebody that knows single family homes, not somebody that knows commercial, not somebody that knows multifamily, but somebody that knows land. And there's not a lot of good ones out there. So I'm going to share with you later how you go about finding that particular person. You need specialty lenders. You know, maybe a private money lender or hard money lender. Is, as I said before, lending on land is not the same as it is in single-family homes or other stick-built products. You're certainly not going to, I'm not going to be able to get a land deal financed through Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Not going to happen. Larger institutional investors, absolutely. But I'm not. So I may go and look for somebody who's got private money. Maybe somebody's got a 401k that's underperforming. Maybe somebody that's got a self-directed IRA. And I'm going to share with you a deal where that's what I did. I had money in my self-directed IRA and purchased land through that. You know you can do that, right? I'm sure a lot of you buy your real estate that way, but you can also buy land. It's real estate. There is no difference. You need to have a good attorney. Here's what I suggest. I've got my specialty attorneys. But if I just want a real basic question answered, anybody here heard of prepaid legal? It's what, like 20, 25 bucks a month? You pick up the phone, you have, you make your call, they get back to you within 4 to 8 hours. And it's basically having an attorney on retainer for, under 30 bucks. They'll also go through and review all your for you and have a bunch of other services. But again, this is a key component that I want to have with somebody on my team. You need to have a good insurance agent. I know a lot of you are going, Scott, it's land. Why do you need an insurance agent? Well, what if somebody trips and falls on your land? No different than your rental properties. So you not only have to have a business policy, but you've got to have it involved in land. So again, there are specialty insurance agents that will do just that. I would recommend you don't bundle this with your Allstate agent or whoever, your Geico. They're not going to be experts in this. And so there may be some areas where something may fall through because you don't have the right policies. So my advice to you is get with somebody that specializes in, one, working with investors and also working with land. You need to have a good accountant. I already told you that's not my thing. I can do accounting, but I don't want to do it. That's not where I make my money. I make my money by going out and finding deals and closing deals and selling deals. And so again, get somebody on your team that's a really good accountant. I'm sure there's a lot of people in here that have great accountants that work with real estate investors, right? Who has a great accountant? Bear's got one. Okay, Dave's got one. And what I suggest you do is you're looking for somebody that's got a mentality. I want somebody that's going to push the envelope, just not lick it and seal it. But I wanted them to push it. And so, again, that's just my personal thing. I'm a little bit more aggressive in in my investing in my books. I'm not going to do anything illegal, but if I can take advantage of it, I'm certainly going to do that. You need to have a surveyor. And here's my recommendation as far as a surveyor. Wherever it is you're going to focus, I'm going to teach you in a minute where to focus on where to buy land. You need to have a surveyor from that area. So it's pretty simple. They have this cool thing, it's called Google. Anybody heard of it? Okay. About last week. Is just do a Google search for that area, call them up and say, what do you charge to do a 40-acre land split into, up to 5 parcels? And here's the thing, here in Arizona, is that you can split, provided the zoning will allow it, you can split any land parcel 5 times without creating a subdivision. And it's a simple process. I've done it a couple times where I had them split the parcel, but I didn't record the tax ID number because it was going to change my tax status. So I had all the paperwork, I just didn't record it. So when I sold it, I just recorded it at that time. And so it didn't change my tax status at all. And then you need to have an environmental engineer. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's called phase 1, 2, and 3 environmental inspections. I've been heavily involved in some of these, especially when I was working in multifamily, and it's not a fun process. A lot of what I'm going to teach you today is buying rural land. I do have some infill stuff that I do, which that's basically, it's a lot that's within a community. It's a lot that hasn't been developed maybe in a commercial area. Those are all infill lots. A lot of what I'm buying is, like I said, it's rural. So depending on the size of the parcel, I may do it. This much I can tell you, on larger land parcels, and again, if you're dealing with an institutional investor, you're for sure, and there's a lender involved, you're for sure going to have to do a phase 1 inspection. Absolutely. They will not fund on it without doing that. Anticipate this rock star team, put them on your team. I don't think there's anything worse, and all of a sudden you get a phone call, somebody wants to do a deal with you, and you're scattered because you don't have your team put together. And it's like you really want to focus on the deal, but now you got to take a step back because you didn't do the preliminary research in building your team. So it's just some suggestions for you. All right, let's talk about how to protect yourselves. Really, there's 3 types of entities that are most common to own real estate. You have your LLC, which is your limited liability corporation. How I use mine, and again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney. I can't piggyback on your disclaimer, Dave? No? Okay, well, I'll do my own.
We did up a front.
Yeah, exactly. That included me. But that's how, I'm just telling you what I've done, what I've been advised to do is I have my longer term assets in limited liability companies, but I've also got various LLCs depending on how I do the deal. Again, I'm going to have my long-term investments in the LLC. I may have some for short-term investments, so if I'm going to flip something, I may have it in a S-Corp, and then you could also have a limited partnership. For the most part of my portfolio, I'm going to have it in LLCs. And again, I'm going to have some where I'm going to do the note, where I'm carrying the note. I'm going to do some where I'm working with other investors. And then I'm going to do some that are just my buy and holds. I've owned land for, God, I bought it back in 2003 and I've still got like 10 land parcels that I'm just hanging on to. It's, I just pay the taxes, I paid cash for everything. Yeah, Bear.
I have a general question for everybody, I guess, or any lawyers or real estate agents. I've got like limited liability company, which is just me, you know, and then I filed for an LLC, limited liability company, but that's me and my 2 brothers that are in it.
Right.
So when I'm doing these W-9s, these various forms and stuff, they've got these boxes that you check, and it's like, are you an LLC or an LLP? And is because there's more than one person in it, is it a limited liability partnership, or is that still a limited liability company?
Well,
everybody knows how to answer that question.
The LLP is, I'm sure you already know, is a limited liability partnership.
Right, I know that's the description of it.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you, but it's
See an attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, just, you know what, Bear, here's what you do. You sign up for prepaid legal, you give them $20. You can cancel after a month and they'll answer your question.
Well, I filled out a couple forms.
Right.
With the one with my brothers, and I put LLP.
Right.
Because I figured, well, there's 3 of us in it, so it's a
Yeah.
partnership.
Here's how I've done my stuff, is I've had multiple partners in my LLC. I've always been the managing member.
Right.
So I'm a 51% owner of that. So I have basically all rights within that. So I have signature rights, I have rights to open up bank accounts, to buy and sell property. That's how I've done it. But again, you know, really, you need, and Dave's right, you need to consult your accountant, you need to consult your attorney, and not just because I don't want to answer the question, because I don't know your overall portfolio and what's best in your brother's portfolio, and so you can have that discussion with them and get a better answer that's right for you. Right, fair enough?
Scott, I'd like to
Yeah.
Also, as part of this, I know you haven't mentioned it, you can have your LLC, but buy the property, title the property in a title holding trust.
Right.
And that's total anonymity. And you could, depending upon how you record the deed, your name is nowhere in
Right.
public.
Yeah.
And I know that you're not doing that, but that is a wonderful approach.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, Dave. All right, and guess what? What's at the bottom of the slide? Consult your accountant and your attorney are off your team to achieve this. All right, let's talk about evaluating a potential market. Here's what I do. If I have what I think is a really good market, I'm just going to go and do, once again, a Google search on that market. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for how many different levels of people that are investing in that area. So again, with the search engine SEO, search engine optimization, it's going to do it by priority and really activity. And so that's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for their websites, and I'm going to kind of go in those websites and see what other type of activity is going on in the area that I'm anticipating that I'm going to invest in. They've already done the research, they've made their mistakes, and they've maybe made some money. So again, don't create the wheel. Yeah, Rob.
Not to slow you down, but what potential actual searches do you want to use in Google to get the meter on the land market and things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start out with land in Arizona. And again, that's where I buy. You guys, and you can use exactly what I'm talking about, works throughout the whole United States. And I've got people I mentor and coach from throughout the United States, so I know that. And so, yeah, I just do a general search for land in Arizona, and all of a sudden you're going to start seeing the top areas pop up. Then you drill down. And I'll share with you how to really drill down in just a minute here, but that's where I start. I start really general. And again, don't go out and create the wheel. It's already created. Here's a really, really cool thing. Once you've looked at your areas, go out and look for building permits. Do you think that home builders know a little bit more about what's going on than we do? Do you think that maybe they have higher budgets and research departments that can go out and find out more than we can? Once again, just make this, I mentioned before, I'm about making this simple. And that's exactly what this does, is we can find out with a building permit, we can find out where they're going to be building. I'm going to show you in a minute a way to know before even the builders know. It's really, really cool. Is read your local business news. Anybody here have the Business Journal or is Business Gazette even around anymore? Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. But I have a membership to the Business Journal. And it's talking about land sales in there. It's talking about anticipating build. Again, if you've got a lot of multifamily going up in a certain area, well, you know that's going to become a really, really hot area. And that's insane what's going on right now in Maricopa County with the building of multifamily. Talk with realtors. And remember what I said before is that you want to have a broker on your team. But here's what you don't want to do. If there's a certain area that you found you want to market to, call up a real estate agent and talk to them. But you don't want to talk to the person that answers the phone. Because you're going to say, you know what, I'm looking to buy land. Who's your land expert in the office? And I guarantee you 100% of the time, if they're an agent answering that phone, guess who's the expert? It's them. And that could be a mistake.
It's, again, I want to deal with somebody that's done a land deal, that's maybe their forte in their background. All right, evaluating a potential market. Sorry about the slides. Our kind of got mucked up a little bit. I'm going to look at Zillow and Trulia. And I know Zillow, anybody here loves Zestimates? God, you would think after what, they've been out for what, 15, 20 years? You'd think they could figure out how to get those right. But I don't know, do they care? I mean, anyway, and all I'm looking for is I'm just looking for activity. So a real quick story is that I'm director of land division for Source Real Estate. And so I've got a team that I taught exactly what I'm talking to you about today. And one of the people there came back and he was marketing this one area, and he said, well, God, I can go in here and there's really no competition at all. And so my response to him was, well, why do you think that is? We shouldn't be afraid of competition, especially in land, because we have less competition, as I mentioned before, than any other type of real estate investing, I believe. But you also want activity. Is that you're going to go out there and buy land all day long, but is somebody going to want it? And you know, if you buy it for the right price, you can work with that. But if you don't, and so that was my my thing with him is, well, let's maybe go to a place that's got a little bit more activity and get you some deals where we can pick them up, cheap, and then we can go ahead and resell them. And so we just took a step back. And really what I'm looking for in Zillow is, again, I'm looking for the stuff that's on the market, I'm looking for the stuff that's pending, and then I'm looking for the recent sales. So they have dots. When you go on their map, you have a green dot, you have a yellow dot, you have a red dot. And that's what all those were. They are for sale, pending, and sold. So I really want to look at the for sale and kind of see, okay, here's my competition, and then drill down and find out what's selling. And then, but also look for activity in that area, and just make sure that when I'm talking about acreage, and something sold for $10,000, that's 5 acres, and something that sold for 20 wasn't selling for the same thing. And again, I'm sure it's common sense, but just be aware of that. Okay, now this is the one thing I told you at the very beginning. If you learn nothing else and write nothing else down, here's what you need to write down. I told you before I was going to give you a way to find out where the builders are building before they build and before they buy. And here's where it is. It's called a 30-year plan or a general plan. Every city, and if it's not a city, if it's an unincorporated area, then every county is going to have a 30-year plan or a general plan. And what it is the city or county sit down and they do projections for 30 years as to where the growth's going to be. They're going to, on this 30-year plan, which is, I have one from, I think it was 244 pages. So if you want to know what's going on, it's right in front of you. It's right on the internet. Download it PDF. It's all free. But here's what it's going to have on it. It's going to have on it where they're anticipating all the bus routes to go in, where they're anticipating retail to go in, where they're anticipating single-family homes to go in over the next 30 years. And then they also have, most of them will have annual updates to that. Is that some useful information? It's showing you the path of growth. We all know that we want to buy in the path of growth. We've been taught that since we were neophyte real estate investors. Well, that's how you tell. Is that exciting stuff, guys? It's right there, right in front of you. Now, I told you that I went down to Cochise County and went to the wineries and visited my property down there. And here's what we did, is that we decided to spend the night there, and then we decided to go, I don't even remember the name of the place, but it's a local pub where you have to go and cook your own steak. And so we spent a couple hours there, and I just sat there. People were asking who we were the outsiders, and what we were doing there. And I told them. And it's amazing. You buy somebody a beer or a glass of wine, it's amazing what they will tell you. Is that in this particular area, we had driven by a major dairy. And I thought, God, I've never even heard about this. Well, what we found out when we were sitting there is that same dairy was going in and buying
smaller parcels, so 5 to 20 to 40 acre parcels, but every single one of them had to have a well on it. Why would that matter? They're looking for water rights because we found out that they were going to build another dairy. So is that going to affect property values? Is that going to affect, if there's that many wells that are going to be pulling out of the aquifer, will that affect what's going on with water in that area? Absolutely. Well, and I'm going to share with you in a minute, I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to share with you some other techniques to use that to my advantage to educate people on why they need to sell or why they need to buy. Any questions? Anybody learning anything here? Yeah. All right, this is good stuff, isn't it? I know when I first heard this, like, this is really, really cool. It's going to get. Here's how I'm going to look for where I want to market. So here's the whole theory, is that if you get off work and you live in Phoenix and you get off work at 5 o'clock, would you be willing to drive 2 hours to maybe go to a land parcel to get out of the city in the summer? So you get off work at 5, you're on your land parcel at 7. Would that be something you might want to do? Maybe every single weekend? Well, that's exactly what we do, is you have a circumference of 2 hours outside a major metropolitan city. That's what I'm saying. You can use this anywhere in the United States. And that's all you do. For bigger cities, it's going to be 2 hours out. For smaller ones, it's 1. And with the same theory, is that, you know, are you going to want to get out of town, go to a land parcel, just kind of go to nature in a 1 or 2 hour drive. And I think a lot of us, especially, I mean, most people are commuting an hour a day anywhere in Phoenix. Wouldn't it be great to be somewhere outside of here? So that's what I'm going to look for. I'm going to break it down into specific zip codes within my area. So that's simple. All right. Ideal property and ideal seller. I'm looking for somebody that may have tax issues, and by that I mean somebody that owes the IRS money. Almost 100% of the time when you're dealing with land, is because this is not built up land, it's not developed land. This is a secondary investment for them. And so if they run into an issue financially, what do you think is going to go first? Their primary residence, the cable, or their land investment? Yeah, cable's going last. They'll, you know, they could have a portable dish and still have it in their car, and they're good. But no, they're going to get rid of their land. And so that's where we're going to come in and help them out. And one thing I want to be really, really clear is a lot of the deals I'm going to share with you is under no circumstance will I ever take advantage of somebody. Is that I won't do a deal unless they win, I win, and the end user wins. It's really, really important to me. And a lot of times I walked away for deals because they weren't fair to somebody. But that's, again, what we're talking about as far as tax issues. Probably 90% of my best deals are people that inherited the property. Mom and dad had this property, that had these grandiose plans for the property. Well, they passed. And now the kids are in Florida, the property's in Arizona. They don't want it. And honestly, they don't even know what to do with it. So that's what and help them. I learned a long time ago, and Dave taught me this. The only reason people do a real estate deal with me because they've got a problem and I've got a solution. If they knew how to do it, they'd do it themselves. But they don't. And that's where we come through and we can educate them and we can help them out of this situation. It could be a challenging financial situation. It could be a situation where maybe they've had some maintenance issues with a house, or maybe they had a car breakdown. Who knows what it is, but it's unexpected and they need cash quick. It could be going through a divorce or a marriage. If it's a divorce, they probably just want to wash their hands of any resemblance to that other person. And so that's where we can step in and buy the property out from underneath them. Or it may be that they just got married and are looking to consolidate. And so those are two great ways to look for it. That they're retiring. And maybe they bought this property when they were younger, and their plan was to build a house on this land and then retire there. Well, life happens. Maybe the kids moved away. Maybe there's some grandkids. It's just not their dream anymore. So they've got this property just sitting there and don't know what to do with it once again. So that's where we're going to step in and help them. They're moving away from the area. It could be a job transfer. It could be a variety of different reasons, but they just kind of want to wash their hands of everything where they currently live. And again, we'll come in and help them. They could have legal issues, need some quick cash. It could be, who knows? But they've got to pay an expensive attorney. They're not going to give up the house, and so they want to sell this land. And then the property's in probate. And some of us had a conversation earlier about doing probate deals. And those are good deals. It's just to do your research on it. But the bottom line is, most of the time, the family just wants out. There may be some squabbling between the heirs, and also, one may want to keep the property. One may just want the cash and to wash their hands of the situation. So that's where we can come in and find a solution for them. And then they bought an investment and they're changing their strategy. Maybe they feel the market's going one way or the other and need to move it into gold. They need to move their money into stocks. They need to move their money into commercial or some other type of residential product. But they just need to get out. And like I said, there's just really not that much competition and that many people that can help them out. And then honestly, here's the number one thing. It's so great. The federal government does my marketing for me twice a year. Love it. It's in October and it's in March. What happens in October and March in Maricopa County in Arizona? Taxes. Yeah, so it's so funny is that I will send somebody out a direct mail piece, won't hear from them. 6 months earlier. And all of a sudden, they're going to keep your letter. That's why I don't email them. That's why I do direct mail, so they have a tangible letter in front of them. But yeah, I'm going to get a phone call and say, you know what, I just got my damn tax bill and I'm tired of this. What, you still want to buy that property? Yeah, let's talk about it. And that's what I love, is that they do the marketing for me. And you know what, and even if they don't do the marketing for me, when somebody's called me off one of our direct mail pieces, I'm just going to sit there and say, so are you getting tired of paying the taxes yet? And pretty much all of them are going to, all of a sudden the dagger just went in their heart. It's like, oh, that's exactly why I'm doing this, is I want to get rid of these taxes. I just don't see any, I don't see this as being an asset. I see this as being a liability. All right, selling strategies for the market. And again, why are we talking about selling strategies right now? Well, when do you make money in real estate?
When you buy.
But when you buy, if I haven't bought it right, I can't sell it right. So that's what I'm talking about. It's when we buy. So this, believe it or not, says that we're going to buy in the path of growth. I've already shared with you what that means. You look at the general plan and you find out where the growth is. You find that through the various Business Gazette and business journals as well. You can wholesale it, make some quick cash, and what I'm looking to do is also build a buyer's list. Is this all stuff you guys can do? Yeah, but it's going to get simpler as I go through this. I've already talked about having a surveyor on your team, so you can subdivide it into smaller parcels. It's so simple. You didn't have to go out to the property. You call the guy on the phone, here's what I want to do. They go out there, boom, you get a bill, they record it. Now, instead of one parcel, you got 4 or 5. To build out, to work with the property owner to develop. And it's so funny, is it? Anybody ever been given a property? The owner just said, take it. Well, I used to do, actually when Dave and I were working together, we used to do a lot of subject twos. But I got a phone call. I was looking for some land in southern Arizona, and the guy called me. He's like, well, I don't want to sell that one. However, I have some land in Utah. I've got 500. Let me ask you this. Would you want to do a JV or joint venture with me? And I go, well, what would that look like? He goes, well, I'll just give you the land, and I'll just participate where you can build it out. They're going to give us the land. That was their investment in the deal. I looked at it further, and there's a bunch of mountains and creeks, and it wasn't a very good land parcel for what they were talking about. But yeah, their part of the deal was just giving the land. It's also what you're going to run into with, again, the people with the taxes and that. They just went out. And then owner financing. And I use this as a buy strategy as well as an exit strategy, and that's why Dave asked me to come and talk to you today. As an exit strategy, it's a great way to create notes. And again, I'll share with you some examples of that in just a minute. All right, let's talk about researching parcels and due diligence. First of all, it's land. We've already talked about there's not a lot that you need to do. I have numerous land parcels, not even seen them. I just do all my research, as I said, from home in my bunny slippers. Well, sometimes bunny slippers, most of the time not, but it makes a better joke. Can it be developed? And again, these are all questions you need to ask yourself, but does it matter? In the course that, I just did a revision to the course that I've written on this. I was working on it last night. And one of the things I'm talking about is this exact thing, is can it be developed? Well, if it can't, is that going to make it easier to get the property price or not? Yeah, it's going to make a big deal, isn't it? And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give you one of my techniques. I'm going to get a hold of and do research and find out everybody that owns land adjoining that, and I'm going to mail it to them. You just say, you know what, I've got this land parcel. Would you want to buy it? You can pick your neighbor. You can be your own neighbor. And again, I'm going to be able to get this because of the fact you can't build on it for so cheap. I can just make a quick profit off it, and they have another parcel of land that's right next to theirs. Can you get to the land? Is there ingress and egress? Once again, does it matter? But I told you before is that I'm going to use a lot of this in my marketing, that if there's no existing roads there or access, I'm going to use that when I'm buying the land. Just say, well, you know, God, I'd like to put together a deal, but there's no way to get to it. Is that kind of important? Well, there's actually, they have to allow you to get access. But with that being said, you may have to get an attorney, you may have to go to court. Is it worth it? I don't want to get involved in that. So I'm going to use the same strategy I just shared with you. If there's no access, well, I'm going to talk to the people that are surrounding that, do a direct mail piece, say, I've just recently acquired this parcel. Do you want to buy it? They've got access to theirs, so access doesn't matter. So again, just another strategy to use. Go to your county websites. Maricopa County is one of the best websites in the United States as far as getting you access and information. But if you go down south, you don't have that. It's better. I mean, like I said, I've been investing since 2003, and it's like, they didn't have a website. And so, but here's what's cool about that. You just call them, and because there's such lack of activity, you talk to the person that answers the phone, they're going to help you out, and they're great to work with. Because quite frankly, they're happy to talk to somebody. And I think their jobs are so boring because there's no activity, they're just happy to talk to you. You kind of got to get them to shut up because we don't want to hear about grandma anymore. But no, it's again, those are great resources. You can go to FEMA. And those are going to show you where, the county websites as well as FEMA are going to show you where floodplains are. They're going to show you where fissures are. That's what I'm saying. I don't have to go to the property. I don't have to visit it to make an offer. Everything's all online. I talk about FEMA. I've got my course, and I've got also an advanced course that I include in that. And I'm going to talk extensively about FEMA and really what you need to look for on their website. And then finding out where the utilities are in relationship to the property. When you're dealing with rural land, it's important, but it's not the end all. I mean, who cares if there's a phone line there anymore, right? As long as they've got cell phones and cell phone coverage, you're good to go. But what's the water situation? What's the electric situation? And again, there are certain ways to overcome that. But this, again, is useful information. And I'm going to talk about that extensively and tell you exactly step by step how to do that and what to do in the course. All right, let's talk about financing, developing the structure of the deal and the terms. Guess what? You can buy land for cash. But you probably didn't come here to hear that, right? Is it, you buy anything for cash, well, for the most part. Federal government kind of steps in every now and then. But yeah, well, and I'm also buying in areas that you just don't run into that. We don't have a spotted owl in Phoenix. And again,
Well,
there's,
he's in California. so-
yeah, right. Well, then there's no condors here that I know of. And so again, I'm not saying you won't run into it. And again, that's kind of where we get into it in the advanced course, is getting more into the what ifs. You know, again, when you start doing your larger infill deals where maybe there was a dry cleaner there before, maybe there was a gas station there before, where you're going to deal with, or a car wash, we're going to deal with some serious environmental issues because it's definitely will have seeped into the soil. And that's where we talk about in the advanced course is how do you handle that? You know, and who do you need to call in? Who's on your team? And if you remember, on that team was an environmental person. And so that's why I want to know that up front. Right, yeah, but on what I'm talking about here, there's not a lot out there.
Scott, if I can add something.
Yeah.
So, many of you know that I'm involved with Eddie Speed. Now, Eddie is partners with David Fenolio, and Fenolio is a big land guy around Dallas, Montego, whatever. So, Eddie finances Fenolio, and they're buying big tracts of land, 1,000 acres, 2,000 acres, and they're busting them up. They do this as a business outside of the note business, but with the note business because they're doing dirt.
Yeah, well, and Dave's right. Just in this one area in Show Low, is that there's a 1,200 acre parcel that's under contract right now. I talked to another guy. There's also a landing strip right there. I mean, this is going to be a really, really, really cool area. It's going to be upscale. They're building a bunch of retail shops in there, and it's about 10 miles northeast of Show Low. But there's another person I talked to. They bought 720 acres in there, and it's all going to be developed right across the street from the 270 acres. They've already got water and sewer put in. All they have to do is run it across the street. And so that's what's cool about this. Again, is I'm mainly marketing to rural stuff, but here's the stuff that's going to drop in your lap. And so it may be where you're at that maybe that scope is not what you want to do, or don't necessarily have the skill set at this time to do, but that's where you call in Dave and myself, and our team comes in and we can work that with you. Any other questions? I mean, who here thinks that this is something that they want to take a look at? Yeah, it's just another vehicle. It's just like there's a place in the real estate cycle where multifamily is great. There's a place in the cycle where commercial is great. There's places in the real estate cycle where single family homes are great. Same thing with land. It's just another vehicle and who cares how we get there and what vehicle you use to get there. But that's why I got into land and I love it. All right, thank you. I know I've gone over. I want to thank everybody for their time. I'm going to stick around afterwards, and I'd love to answer any questions you have. Like I said, if you're interested in getting the course, my cards are outside. We've also got some pins and some screen cleaners that have that information on it as well. If you just have a question, send me an email. Like I said, if you want to do a deal, send it over to me and Dave. We'll take a look at it. I can let you know in a day whether it's a deal or not. So anyway, I know that you can always go out and make more money, but you can't go out and make more time. So I do appreciate the time that you gave me. I appreciate your participation, and hopefully we can work together down the road. All right, thank you. Thank you.